So the first thing, like I did one experiment called Vibe App, which was just you plug in your Instagram or Twitter handle, and it gives you like this personality card. And then people were starting to share that at a high rate. We got like 100,000 downloads in like a month. I was like, okay, that was like pretty crazy. But I'm kind of tired of building these like really simple small apps that are kind of like a flash in the pan and then die out. So I was like, how do I actually build something that like has longer retention, like has more of a like positive impact in someone's life versus something that someone uses for a couple minutes, kind of like a toy and drops off on. So a lot of the experiments are kind of in pursuit of that. Like, what could I possibly build with like someone's personal context plus AI on top that can like get us there?
Hey everyone, what's up? This is Chris and you're listening to Nonlinear. In a new episode, I just now interviewed Zach Eisenhauer, early stage founder of Wearables. As you hear from the name, an AI wearable device, which records every conversation you have throughout the day and transcribes it into a software. Meeting Zach was super inspiring. I met him in front of the YC office. We're lining up for a Replit event, and he shares with us his journey. So, in my opinion, a rather exciting episode to listen to and dive into. So I would say let's cut the talking and dive right in. Hey, 2 days ago we met each other super coincidentally at a YC kind of meetup, or I think this Replit session. And then after this, I also I'm not a regular tweeter, but I briefly tweeted about it and kind of compared it to going to KitKat in Berlin. Like when I met you, why? Now, many people or the ones who are listening to this one might have probably a different imagination what's about to come, but you like just introduced me to the current wearable you're working on, which is called Compass. And it kind of just gave me this kick of a feeling which you get when you're like lining up or queuing up in front of these crazy clubs in Berlin, right? So you have a really like an intrinsic feeling of buzz, excitement, some fear, because it seems like what's about to happen there is actually really crazy. And why don't you take it over from here and just tell us a bit about what you're doing with Compass?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so our mission is really like how can we extend human ability with ambient audio? And the first product we've launched in this space is called Compass Wearable. And it's an AI wearable that just helps securely transcribe all of the conversations happening around you. So everything you say, everything you hear gets brought into an app, and then AI analyzes this information to help make it useful on top. So what that looks like is you get daily reminders of the things you promised. You can look back at any memory from your past. And we have everything embedded in the chat view. So if you're wanting to dive deeper into a conversation you previously had, get like an email drafted, or just have a conversation about the AI to learn more about yourself or someone you may have met, yeah, you're able to do all of that today with the device.
And that's pretty much amazing. I think particularly in Europe, where probably most of my listeners are coming from, I think we're just hearing about these AI pins, like Humane, I think is one of them. Then Friend is one of them, I guess. Like how familiar have you been with these devices since or before launching even your own product Compass and stuff? Like, have you always been like teched out and being into wearables and stuff?
Yeah, I haven't always been purely into wearables themselves, but definitely being in the Bay Area, you hear about all the device and tech launches, and yeah, it's been a pretty exciting space. Like, I think Humane, they've been kind of cooking for a while, and I still think there's a ton of potential with the pin that they launched. But something that was really hard was just the state of autonomous agents at the time that they launched. Like, I think everyone expected autonomous agents to get really good, and AI will be able to like do all these tasks for you pretty quickly, but then quickly realized, oh, it's actually going to take years to make these things reliable, to like improve the AI models enough so that people can start trusting them or going more hands off on the things they want to do. So I think trying to replace the smartphone with like an auxiliary device that can complete actions, it was maybe just like a little bit too early, but I think in 2025 especially, it's going to be like a huge possibility. Um,
Yeah, I mean, let's dive deeper into it in a second, and maybe like the second part of the pod. Like in the first, I would like to now basically rewind the clock to basically get some background around you. Like also when I scroll through your LinkedIn, I saw, of course, the Entrepreneur First. I also did an EF batch actually in 222 in Berlin, the last one which they had. You went to Launch House. I did like a virtual New York residency, so I went over in 222. So it's like there's a couple of overlaps, and then you've also launched many kind of consumer products. I worked for many consumer startups. Um, kind of like let's just look at the maybe like one or two sentences about what you did before that, like let's say before the 2020s. But then it seems like you've been in the startup rabbit hole, like building and stuff, since like 2 or 3 years. Um, yeah, like just give some background. I think that's super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about entrepreneurship until, yeah, I would say like probably 2016, 2017, going through my undergrad. And at the time, I was just like helping with student organizations or different clubs, but still kind of had my aspirations on like working in cybersecurity or at Google or doing something more professional. And then I started my career in like enterprise cybersecurity actually. So I got an internship at Citibank. I was working on the advanced cyber defense team and helping build tools to help secure, yeah, just like Citi from different various attacks. Like they would get attacked like 640,000 times a day. And so it was like kind of a really cool environment to start experimenting and testing like different products with like the L1 and L2 analysts. And then worked at Citibank a little bit post college, transitioned into global payments where I got to do a bit more offensive security. And the entire time I was there, I was also just nights and weekends, like working on side projects, working on startups. So Citi had a problem with it. They gave me an ultimatum, which is like either go all in on your startup or all in here. You can't do both. Then global payments was like a bit more chill about me working on something on the side. And I would say nothing really was working, mainly because it just my heart wasn't all in it. I was like doing this like full time job plus the thing on the side, up until like right when the pandemic started. So like at the time, I was really passionate about just hackathons and community building and events, and I was building software for that. But there's nothing you could really monetize or make use off of. And then this like strange thing happened in the event space where you had all of these like in-person events and you had all these big contracts, but then the pandemic hit, quarantine started happening, all these in-person venues started to disappear. And then it's like, what do you do to stay afloat? How can these companies stay alive? We quickly transitioned some of the software we were building into like this virtual venue. And that was my first like kind of breakthrough as a startup that got to like six figures in revenue. And then I got like a smaller exit, just like on micro acquire. And then I started venturing like a lot more in my career. I started just like traveling a bit more. At the time, I was just kind of in Texas. Um, that's where I got to meet like a lot more entrepreneurs. I tried some of these entrepreneur programs like EF to find a co-founder. I was in LA for a month and eventually ended up joining like the NGL team. And then NGL was crazy.
It's maybe like before, yeah. I mean, this is already a lot, and this is super cool.
Oh,
Thanks for
yeah,
this
sorry.
background. Also, super fun side story with City and stuff. How they even like a question there would be like, how did they even know that you're working on projects? But let's keep it crisp there. Like, can you tell me a bit more about Aglo? Like what you did there with this with the company where you had the micro exit?
Yeah. So, in kind of a cheap growth way, like we were an event management company ourselves. We had a hackathon that we're about to produce with National Geographic and EarthX. And we're about to lose this like big monetary contract. So we really created like a static version of what would be like a virtual venue. So like being able to like stream the content, have people like chat and interact within the live streams, and then having ways to like network like other components you typically have in an in-person event, but like how can you just do this purely online?
Sounds
Um,
like Gather. Do you know Gather?
yeah, yeah, very similar like Hopin or get gather.town. Um,
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, then let's just jump back to Miami. I mean, what did you do there?
oh yeah, so after yeah, as I was like doing the event stuff, one hackathon that despite everything being quarantined and locked down that was still happening was this hackathon called like Miami Hack Week. At first, I was just like a participant for it. I like flew into Miami. It was kind of my first time there, and fell in love with the event format. It was really interesting, like the approach. So, like typically at a hackathon, you'll have like one venue. Everyone will kind of go in there. They'll like code something for a couple of days, and they'll present it. And this was a very decentralized style event. So like each sponsor had like a hacker house, like this like beautiful house in Miami somewhere. and then it was very curated. Like they would have just like 30 to 40 people in that house. So you had these like pockets of like really passionate, exceptional people that were like accepted and then filled in for things like Web3 or like maybe it was like VR. Um, and I got really excited about it. I was doing at the time just learning how to get better at sales and doing a lot of event partnerships. So then I joined the Skeldy event going into like 2022, and that was like a crazy experience. Like we're in very much like a bubble in terms of crypto and like a lot of other industries. There's just a ton of spend. So we ended up raising like 400K or something crazy. We had like 27 of these different hacker houses. Um, and yeah, it was like a pretty wild time.
So you just went there as a participant, you liked it a lot, and then you just like asked someone whether you can join full time, or what happened
Oh
there?
yeah, I made friends with Jadon, who was like the lead organizer at the time. I kind of invited him to some of our hackathons in Dallas to like be a judge or like see the lay of the land there, and then just formally joined the team on like in a like a partnerships role. Um,
Okay, super cool. And then you just like kept organizing hackathons for them, or like, or how often did Miami Hack actually happen?
yeah, it was like an annual event, so we threw it. Yeah, like it was like August 2021 was the one I attended. Then we did like January 2022, and then like January 2023. And
Hmm.
I kind of started going deeper into like building startup and like being a founder at that time. So I kind of like after 2023 kind of took a pause away from the organization and just went like fully in on my startup. Um,
Cool. And then you joined Not Gonna Lie, or NGL. Is it actually Not Gonna Lie, or are they just called
yeah,
NGL?
that's what the
Yeah.
acronym stands for.
Okay, I've never actually heard of them like in Germany. Maybe I'm also like in the, I don't know, not in the right bubble here, but it seems like it's a huge thing.
Yeah, so for NGL, it's like an anonymous Q&A app. The basic principle behind anonymous Q&A is you send it to like a trusted group of friends. People give you feedback, and like this feedback came from someone that you know, and then it's kind of interesting. Like who sent that to me? If someone sends you a message like I have a crush on you, you're
Yeah.
like, okay, who sent that? Like who has a crush on me? And it's not typically like honestly a very new idea. Like Ask FM, Send It, like others kind of existed before NGL entered the market. But what was interesting about NGL is the founder of it, Raj, he knew working at Instagram and like just with some insider information that this like sticker feature is about to launch. And then other platforms are kind of building on top of text or like on top of Snapchat. But Instagram just has a far more powerful social graph. So if you can like penetrate the social graph in a particular way, you're going to get exponential and like crazy growth. So the entire focus at NGL was like, how do we attain this like K factor above one, which is like for each user that installs the app, how many additional installs do they bring in? And it took about 5 or 6 months of like constant iterations to get there. So like the basic idea was like install the app, teach the user how to create a link sticker, and then post something on their Instagram story. And then they'll see who views their story, and then they can interact with the NGL platform. And then there's some also tricky things with anonymous Q&A, right? Like cyberbullying, like how do you prevent this from being anything other than like a ton of positivity? So then we'd leverage some AI tools like Hive moderation or different things to like filter out any like negative or bad content. Um, yeah,
So
it was
just
like
to understand it, just to understand what it is, it's basically a widget built on top of Instagram or feeding into Instagram, which then enables you to build like a different level of relationship to the people you interact with or who follow you, who watch your stories, etc. Right? That's basically, do you know Slay app?
a little bit. I'm imagining it's kind of like a gas app or, um,
Yeah, 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 exactly. So I can't say exactly because I'm just not too deep into the consumer social apps there right now, but yes, I think it's the same space. So it's basically this for Instagram.
yeah, exactly right. So like in the NGL app, you would like click share. So it is like its own app versus like something that's built inside Instagram. But this would take you to like create an Instagram story post, and you'd share the link and then send. Um,
Ah, okay. So it's just for user acquisition. So you export the social graph from Instagram to the app, and then you interact with these people there. So it's like a growth hack for NGL basically.
Yeah, but like in a different way from slaying gas. So like slaying gas may take your contacts in and then use your social graph to like build the questions or like Anonymous polling is like a little bit of side channel. NGL, it's like even simpler. Like it doesn't require anything about your social graph, but just you sharing a story post that has a link back to NGL on Instagram itself creates a huge viral loop if executed correctly. So you can imagine like each story might get viewed by like a few hundred people, and you might get like a few dozen downloads from that story post, and those
Hmm.
people go and post it, and you'll get a few dozen more downloads, and that ends up just causing exponential growth. So it's like kind of overnight after 5 or 6 months, we're going from like 500 to like 1,000 downloads to like, oh fuck, there's like 500,000, like a million downloads a day. Um,
And then in the like, that's a sick growth hack. And then like in the app itself, you just have basically these contacts then in there, like who downloaded the app, like your friends or friends of friends or whomever, like first or second or third degree of connection. And then you just like basically do this anonymous polling with these people, and then you just see like, ah, okay, this dude or girl has a crush on me, and he or she has the best outfit, and da 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 da, right?
yeah, so you'll get like a message back, like yeah, like the I have a crush on you message.
Yeah.
And like basically the paywall or like monetization side of this is we don't actually know who sent this, but we can make some pretty good hints. Like we know like the phone that they used when they sent it. We know like the
Mm.
location. So you can kind of infer like if you're in like a high school or college environment, like okay, I think it's this person. Um,
Sick. Okay, now I get it. Now I get it. I just thought, okay, I just didn't infer that the use cases then again like colleges and stuff and younger users because I thought that this was already taken by like all of the Nikita beer type of stuff, but probably not. Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
a precursor to gas too. Like so some of the monetization models from NGL inspired gas app, and then Nikita and Say were like pretty strong advisors for us. Um,
okay, cool. So you did this for 8 months, so you were just basically there for the growth loop for this co-designing this thing, I guess. And then at some point you were just like, okay, let's now do our own thing again.
yeah, so learned a lot from the team, and even at NGL, like it hit a point where it's growing so much that like there's no amount of marketing spend that can help it anymore. Because like no marketing campaign is going to beat the viral growth loop. So that felt kind of somewhat pointless to focus on. And then even on the engineering side, we started expanding platforms like Snapchat or Twitter, but there's like no, or like adding different games, but there's like nothing you could engineer on the app that would like increase the amount of revenue it was bringing in, or like dramatically increase the amount of users that were coming in. So at that point, it was like, okay, like what do we do with this app? Like what's next? And at NGL, I was starting to kind of seed or experiment a lot more with AI. Like some of the like GPT-2 and GPT-3 models are coming out, and I was like super excited about that. So we were seeding like a couple experimental ideas, and then I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna move to SF and go all in on like the personalized AI space. Um,
Maybe like one thing which I missed for asking is like, how did you make the jump from Miami to LA to the NGL team?
yeah. So in the same network, kind of with like Miami Hack Week, like Dave Fontenot was kind of this influential person there, and he was pretty close friends with Raj. He was like the founder of NGL. So through kind of mutual friends, I got to know like Raj and some of the people better, and they had like an like office already set up, and like everyone from the NGL team was in LA already. So I kind of just hopped over. I was like, okay, everyone's in LA. I really want to like get better at building social apps. Like these people did like paparazzi and like all these social apps
Mm,
before. I just want to hop in and join. Um,
cool. Amazing. Amazing. Hey, okay, so and then you started playing around with AI 222 to 223. Yeah, what's based then? Like what happened then?
oh yeah. So the first thing, like I did one experiment called Vibe App, which was just you plug in your Instagram or Twitter handle, and it gives you like this personality card. And then people were starting to share that at a high rate. We got like 100,000 downloads in like a month. I was like, okay, that was like pretty crazy. But I'm kind of tired of building these like really simple small apps that are kind of like a flash from the pan and then die out. So I was like, how do I actually build something that like has longer retention, like has more of a like positive impact in someone's life versus something that someone uses for a couple minutes, kind of like a toy and drops off on. So a lot of the experiments are kind of in pursuit of that. Like, what could I possibly build with like someone's personal context plus AI on top that can like get us there. The next thing I started experimenting with was called like the everything bagel. It was like this ominous like black bagel. and you could add different data sources to it. So this thing you can scroll around, and like you can add like your photos to it. You can add like your Twitter. And the basic idea was like, okay, like if it reads all of my Instagram posts and like comments, then it has like way more context about me. Or like if it like goes through all my tweets, then like it knows a little bit about my ideologies, my worldview. If it like uses a photo AI to like analyze my photos, like now
And
it
what's
knows.
the purpose of the bagel?
You just chat with it about life. Like anything you want to do with it. We were still figuring that out internally. It's like, is this gonna help you be more productive? Like get like a better understanding of yourself? And I would say at its peak, it was pretty small. Like we just had like a few thousand users on it. And what we noticed was there's a couple hundred hardcore power users, but they're using it more for like this like therapeutic reason. I think if you use an AI app like ChatGPT or you're using like character AI, you're kind of starting the relationship from ground zero. Like you have to explain everything about you. It's like unclear if it's even going to remember all the details correctly. So I think people don't open up as well. But with this one, it's like you start talking about an issue you had with a friend. It knows that friend. It knows that friend's hobbies. So like it says something that's a little bit more relatable. It kind of knows like your sense of humor and like. So I think because we kind of broke this like ground zero barrier, there's a lot of people going through like deep personal issues that are like starting to engage with the app, like their parents are constantly fighting, or like they had a friend that recently passed away, and those were kind of what ended up being like the highest engaged users. And it was kind of a struggle. Like I was co-founding with my one of my friends like Shy at the time, and both of us were like, we don't really directly have this problem. And it's like hard for us to like deeply understand the minds of the users using it, or like even like what to build next. So I just felt this like internal like lost feeling for like multiple months, where like, okay, this is cool. Like we understand our power users now, but like, what do we do? Is this like what we're expecting it to be going into it, or it was kind of like an interesting journey there.
Was this based?
Yeah. So that ended up all of that was like under the umbrella of like the base social. Um, so we're gonna end up rebranding it. Like I think based as a word, it stands for being like unapologetically you, which felt like it resonated with like speaking to this like AI that knows everything about you. It's like you can just be your honest
Mm,
self, be super authentic, and like you
sick.
don't have to care what it thinks. So we're going into that name more, and like we're gonna continue iterating on this app, and like we raised a little bit of cash for it, but then yeah, just kind of felt lost.
Yeah, but I mean, it's already a precursor of what you're building now. So that's why I have to laugh all the time because it's
Yeah.
like it's so awesome. Like it's essentially what you're doing now is like how I'm looking from it or how I perceive it right now, and I'm excited to hear how you perceive it. It's like a different. It's basically a similar version of Bagel, just in a different medium, right? So you're just going for hardware now to basically record the personal like conversations, um, maybe even spoken thoughts of a person, and to create this kind of like searchable intelligence. Um, yeah, instead of like Bagel, which just did it with all of the past information.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
like, and how did you make this switch?
Yeah, so at the time, I had the opportunity to go through this like really cool program called like Build Space, created by like this guy named Farza to just like help people work on their own ideas. They had like this in person campus I was at for 3 months called like Build Space at SF1, and it was pretty tangential to another founder community called Founders Inc. Which is ran by this like crazy guy named like Furkan. He helped build like digital advertising earlier in his life, and he's working on this like Web3 platform called Third Web now.
Hmm.
But they have just a lot of crazy builders from like all backgrounds. And as we were starting to just be like, what do we do next? There's one builder in the studio named Fatine, and he was working on AI plushies for kids. And they were
Hmm.
running into like a lot of the same problems that we solved with like the Everything Bagel app, which is like, how do we do embeddings? How do we like personalize this to the kid? And like, how do we take in this information and make use of it in a clever way? So it ended up helping briefly with the team. Like we got their initial like iOS and Android app up, some of the embeddings and some of the backend work that we had on Everything Bagel. And we're like, okay, should we make kids toys for like the next like 5 years? Like, is this going to be it? And then I was like, kind of debating, like almost went all in on that idea. And at the same time, in the hardware lab, there was this guy named Nick and this guy named Martinez that like kind of just popped in or like came into our lives at some point. And Martinez ended up actually being like a roommate where I was staying too. We had like a mutual friend, and he was crashing here. And I ended up doing a hackathon with Nick on like it was called Humane. So it's kind of like an open source version of like the Humane pin, and that went like somewhat viral. I was starting to get to know this guy a little bit better, and then Martinez was super passionate about this use case of like the dependent. So he was prototyping with like a lot of different chips, building the firmware for it, and eventually came to like this case design, and then also like the chipset and stuff to use. He made like an initial post on X that was going somewhat viral. He got like a couple hundred Stripe orders, but came to like kind of me and my co-founder Shai at the time. I was like, guys, like I have the hardware working, I don't have an app. All these people are expecting this device in a couple weeks. Like, can you help? And then we're just like, okay, like this seems super cool. Like, super curious about like the possibilities of this. And then ended up just as a favor, like building the iOS and Android app for Martinez. I got like the very first unit he hand built, and then got that working with iOS and Android. Kind of launched that within a couple of weeks while he was hand making the first like couple hundred units that he sold, and he like shipped those out. And then
Like the couple hundred units of Compass?
yeah,
Yeah,
like
okay.
I would say the tweet it got like 500,000 impressions, and then like 200 or orders from that first tweet, which is kind of crazy. Like Peter Levels, like other big people were like retweeting it, and um,
What was the tweet about? Like, what did it exactly say?
it was basically Martinez saying like, "Hey, I have this device. Everyone's been saying that they're gonna ship you a device like this, but nobody's actually shipping it, and I'm just gonna actually ship it to you. So I'll start shipping the orders next week. This is how it works. I don't think it's gonna be the best device in this space, but it's like the one you can get right now." And then at the time, he was thinking it would integrate with like one of the open source projects. Like there's one called like Adeos. But then ended up after like partnering with us, we just like kind of built it all from scratch for him. Um,
Okay, insane. Hey, but why did the others, or why, that's also what you told me in front of the YC office, like that the other companies are just not shipping. Like, why are they taking so long?
I think there's just in hardware, I think especially it's pretty hard. And the more perfectionist and the more complicated you make the physical device, the longer things end up taking. Like some of the advantages we had on our team is we used a pre-certified off-the-shelf chip that was like production ready, and just had all the components and things we need. Like it had a microphone, it had the ability to connect via Type C and charge it. It has like BLE that works pretty reliably. So like all of the components are like FCC, UK doc, like all of the like kind of dozen approvals you need to launch a hardware product are there. And then it just became a question of like designing the firmware, creating the case, and shipping it out. Where I think like other competitors, like they might have like a really interesting custom PCB board, which has to go through like 3 months of certification, and then they have to start trying to mass produce it, and then they jump the gun and like they don't use an intermediary for production, attuned to like their order size, but like they'll go to China and they'll do like an injection mold, and like they'll start prepping for like mass distribution. Like I think maybe like a bit too early. Um, and
Launch early, launch early, launch often or something. What was the launch house thing?
yeah,
Yeah, something something like that. Okay, super cool. And now you're like founding with Martinez, basically, this guy?
yeah. So Martinez and I went all in on this particular idea. For me, after we launched the MVP, I started using the device every day, and things just started clicking in my mind. Where I'm like, oh wow, like this is kind of the first time in my career that like I've actually enjoyed using a product that I built. Like every single day of my life, it's like creating these like micro improvements and adjustments, and yeah, I got just like super amped up and excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also like that's what we all felt. Joe from Kappa was standing next to me, and then the other people from Kappa. And actually, him and I, we also spoke about you and the product afterwards. And I think you were really, you could just feel that you were authentically excited. Like in the beginning, you didn't even talk about it, right? We just asked you a couple of questions, and then after 2 minutes or something, we just a natural question emerged. Hey, wait, is this your product? Um, hey, and maybe if you already wanna chat about like some vertical use cases or some users, like who is it really for, right? That's also what we've at dinners this week. I've basically chatted about your product because I was also like, hey, this is cool. It's the first AI wearable which I saw. Again, getting back to the Twitter post where I was like, it kind of like similarly to what you just described was for one of the first times that I've in a very long time that I've interacted with a product. And I was like, crazy. Like this could actually change the way we live, right? It's not a pitch or it's not like just traction on a pure software play. Um, but you just feel it, right? It's in front of you. You have some concerns, of course, because of privacy stuff.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. So we had that tweet, we shipped those first couple hundred out, and then kind of through April and May, we're just like learning from our users what they want to use the product for, and we're trying to kind of retain them or like keep them engaged. But ended up just realizing like if people are like a staff engineer in tech or just like a tech engineer, it really is more like a toy for this kind of demographic in terms of the current status of the technology and how it works. So we're seeing them start to drop off, and then we're starting to do more experiments to kind of find this like initial customer profile. And what we found that was like ideal was whenever we did some conservative like meta ad campaigns towards like an older demographic, like 37 to 65 plus and older, a huge bucket of need, which is like kind of a hair on fire problem, was people in occupational roles with a lot of in-person dialogue. Like they're a teacher and they're interfacing with a few dozen students every day and they're trying to remember the conversations well, or they're in commercial real estate and they're trying to close these different house deals in person, but they need to know the details correctly in order to close the case. People in kind of these types of roles, like business owners and different things, like for them, they've recognized memory has caused problems for them, like in their role, and they've actively seeking out kind of a solution to help fix it. And kind of for the first time ever, like it's cheap enough and good enough to like adequately solve that problem. And then there's a lot of people with memory impairment issues too. So you have like someone with ADHD, and they have these memory gaps throughout their day. And then you also have people with like going through chemo with brain fog, and like they're struggling to keep up like they used to before, and are kind of searching for a device like this. And yeah, I think it's like a massive market and massive opportunity, especially just because it's directly helping them now, and there's like really direct things we could do on the product to help grow and scale it. And then we're really excited to start experimenting or vertically growing out from there. One big thing is like right now, what we're making use of in ambient audio is just remembering your conversations. But I actually think there's like so much more you can do. We're gonna launch like an SDK, and we've already started kind of talking and piloting with partners. Like one can detect mental illness, like but before you would even know it, just based off of your conversational audio. There's like a partner that can help create hard copy autobiographies of your life. Even in the world of autonomous agents, which are starting to get a lot better, you can have things like trigger actions on your behalf, like already schedule an event, invite the other person, or already put that email in drafts for you to send off. So we're super excited about the future with like the SDK, and then yeah, it's like a little bit of background on the our like initial target group.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And also thanks for already getting that. This would have been the next question. So by also working on this SDK, you mean that you're basically opening up the opportunity for everyone to build apps on top of the data on top of your feed, which you're basically creating, right?
Yeah, correct. So we have like the MVP version of it that we have launched in the app right now is we do have like a webhook. So with Compass Wearable, we are very privacy focused. Like we never store audio at rest. Audio goes from the physical device to your phone securely to the backend. It gets processed into these transcripts, memories, reminders, other things, and then you're able to kind of like resurface that in chat as well. But during processing, if you want to, you can put like an endpoint URL, and that will unencrypt the transcripts and send them to this endpoint like every 30 seconds. So we have some users building apps on top of this now. Like they'll do analytics on top of their transcripts, or they'll do. We have some people with these crazy make flows where they'll like add stuff to Airtable based on a certain word it sees. They'll like break apart the list and like categorize like the clients they're meeting. Just really cool and kind of like incredible to see that's like already emerging with the app now. But what we want to do with the SDK is we have this screen to the right, And we've kind of built two MVP apps like reminders and workflows, but we want to enable users to like build and monetize off apps in this view. So it's like maybe if you enable access to audio, and you start to allow audio processing, you can understand like every song you've heard for like the past couple of weeks and like attach the song that you're hearing to like the memory itself in order to make the memory higher fidelity. Maybe you want like really detailed analytics about like the sentiment analysis per person you talk to. Just like all these kind of crazy things that people really want to build.
Black Mirror, Black Mirror vibes,
Yeah,
right?
a little bit, yeah.
But somehow in a good way. Yeah, I mean the future is inevitable. Like this will come into reality at some into some person or another, right? It's awesome that you're doing this. Thanks for elaborating. Hey, now I guess in the last like maybe 10 minutes or something would be also cool to chat about like I think there's entire or that's what I think. Like you can please correct me or please just tell me how you think about it. Like I guess there's an entire industry now coming up, right? With AI hardware products. Like this will be one gateway product which you're doing, and then there will be yeah toys, I don't know, like plenty of other things. Probably everything will be smart at some point or another. Basically, what we thought what would come like 5 years ago that your fridge is talking to you, or basically what is described in George Orwell's, I think 1984. There's kind of like this intro of like the door which even asks you for a euro to open and stuff. So some level of intelligent conversation anyways will be built into products. And like so what do you see, or are there any use cases already where you are like, hey, aside from what you're building with Compass, this is for sure going to be huge. Like these are uh, great opportunities.
Oh yeah. So I guess to preface that question, yeah, we're hoping that we can enhance human ability, like give people superhuman powers, just kind of like how the smartphone already has in a great way, but not in a way where like there's like a centralized government or source of power that's like influencing or affecting our lives. Like I guess in terms of like the 1984 vision of the future, we're trying to go as far away from that as possible. It's why we put so much effort into like encrypting the information and even in the case that like we got subpoenaed, there's no prior information or prior conversations in Compass we could even resurface for like a government entity, because there is AI processing that happens. I guess in like future state they could maybe listen or try to watch in, but yeah, we're actively trying to figure out clever ways to like anonymize the information and separate it out so that yeah. One, like I think government interference is like a huge distraction for startup companies. Like you don't want to be dealing multiple months on a subpoena, and two, the user expects this to be like fully private and for them like in their own personal use, and we want to like respect that privacy. We do purely like a subscription based model for that reason. So like we're not monetizing, selling, or training with any of the information. We're just kind of charging a subscription on top for like the service we're providing. Um, but then yeah, other kind of really cool AI concepts out there. Like I do really think the AI plushie is going to catch on. I think it's a hard market right now because parents are really scared of AI. They don't realize how beneficial it is for your kid. But I think it's actually a huge positive impact to your kid to have one of these like AI plushies. And like I think at a certain point the market will turn and it's going to become like gigantic. Um, and the reason is like if you're kind of one of the like five closest friends around you, like it's kind of the culmination of your own personality. What if one of those five friends was like an omni intelligent AI that knew like everything about the world and you could ask any curiosity to? And it's probably way healthier than like having a screen and just like doom scrolling TikTok or playing for Fortnite for like 3 to 4 hours. If you just have this thing with like a personality that like understands you and you can ask any crazy question to it and like it'll come back with like a really interesting answer. I don't know.
Age adjusted answer.
Yeah. Yeah, the guardrails and everything are honestly pretty good as well. Like, I think for the toy companies like Fatines or like Curio, they've done a lot of work to like add these guardrails so you can't talk about anything like NSFW or, um, but
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Um,
I'm trying to think of like other. I've seen, yeah, I think in kids' toy explorations, like a lot of cool stuff. Like, one I saw recently also was this like Pokemon Pocket Capture tool where it's like because you can do AI generated images and like image understanding, you can have someone take a picture of a duck, it knows the type of duck, and it like saves it like a Pokedex in like this kid's trajectory thing, and then they can just go and explore around the world and like take pictures of animals and stuff and have the entry.
Okay, that's a bit of a crazier use case, yeah. Okay, nice, got it, cool. Yeah, I look into that stuff. Hey, and then like just regarding the operations, because like there will probably, or like I'm of course like when I heard about this, I was like, wow, cool. So I mean, until this catches up in Europe, it will take, I don't know whether it will at any point in time really catch up. How did you launch the product? Like, how do you pre-sell, or how do you make sure? I mean, you just said that the Twitter post and the Stripe revenue which came in was basically already a validation, but like, how would you go about launching such a hardware thing?
Yeah. So initially, like first couple hundred units from Twitter, Martinez just handmade the units, and then we just started iterating really quickly on the app. And post that happening, once we had the storefront, and once we were getting to like 1,000, 2,000 units a month, we started realizing like we can't hand make these anymore. We have to like kind of build a better supply chain around it. And Martinez, he's originally from Lithuania, so and Lithuania, one talent's just like a lot cheaper, and there's pretty good resources and like startup community there. He flew back from like SF to Lithuania, found like a really great factory to work with. There's kind of this question of like when do you start manufacturing in China versus manufacturing elsewhere. I think Lithuania was significantly cheaper than the US. The quality control was really good from what we saw in the factory, and we could do a kind of printing approach with the physical device, where we didn't need to go like SLA or like fully into an injection mold just yet. I think once you surpass like 10,000 units a month or more, you kind of just need to like start to scale manufacturing in China itself. But as we're in this intermediary where we're starting to see a lot of growth, but not like a crazy amount of growth, Lithuania kind of made the most sense. So we had the factory set up there, and then we started just trying to have the fulfillment center set up there and shipping it directly to people. And in Europe and Australia, and different locations on that side of the sphere, this is great. I think shipping from Lithuania, it gets to Germany super fast. It gets to other places. But then shipping to the US, there's like this huge customs problem that you just like can't avoid. There'll be a lot of packages where 3 to 4 day shipping will get to the person, and then there'll be like 100 where it'll get stuck in customs like 2 to 3 weeks. And that customer's like, "What the hell? Like I paid like for 4 day shipping. Why don't I have it yet?" So then we started activating a fulfillment center in Austin, Texas, well, locally in the United States, so that we could get faster shipping to U.S. customers. And then it became a game of like, how much excess inventory do you build, and then start to fulfill in like these different centers based on like, yeah, the customer demographics and like where people are purchasing from. That's kind of the stage we're at now. So we have these like two fulfillment centers built out for this D2C brand, and we're just try to scale it up as much as possible for the whole holiday season, kind of all on the hardware side. Um,
Sure.
when some really interesting hardware insights for any like hardware founders out there too. Uh, with the D2C brand, you have a lot of control of like kind of not going bankrupt with like the amount of inventory you build, and like keeping inventory pretty close to like the amount that you're selling. Something we learned from Sphero and some of our other mentors as they were starting to explore retail or like going into like different stores is you'll get an email like from Walmart or a big retail chain where it's like, hey, we want to start taking stock of your device, ship us like 100,000 units or something crazy. And to you, it'll be a huge breakthrough. You're like, we made it. We're going to be in all these different places. But actually, it's like one of the single biggest killer of like hardware startups, because they'll make this agreement with you, but it's only for the units that actually get sold in store. So they'll stock a bunch of units in like all of their stores. And then if it doesn't sell or like collects dust in any way, or like they overestimated the amount that the demand would be, then they'll just ship them all back to you and like not pay for the excess amount. Um,
Thanks.
but I would say like 90% plus of hardware startups die just like going D2C to retail. So it's something we've been like a bit wary of as well. Like I think just like doing very small pilots, understanding kind of, yeah, as you're like expanding that way. Um,
Two questions which come out of this for me is like number one, do you like how do you grow right now? Is it Facebook ads or is it like ads in general, or did you also do like I don't know. Yeah, like, are there any other growth hacks you can share? Of course, right?
Yeah, of course. So kind of I took a lot of inspiration just from learning growth at NGL, which is like one, you need to have a reliable way to see the app. Like what's a reliable way to get like a few thousand people to try something so that you can run like an experiment for product led growth. So right now for us, because there's more of a need for an older demographic, Meta ad spend has been pretty reliable in order to like seed with a few thousand users. But then it's like strategic ways to get the user into the funnel and then start to empower this like K factor above one. So we're starting to test like the physical device. You can just tap it. It'll give you a link to the storefront. So if anyone's like, hey, like, what are you wearing, for like any user that's like wearing the device out and about, they can organically kind of bring more people into the ecosystem. And then we're starting to see users start to share things like funny reminders. Like sometimes they'll like watch a movie and they'll get like a reminder about doing like an exorcism or something. And they'll like share that on their like Instagram, which is kind of like a funny use case we didn't think about before, but kind of playing into things that we're seeing in user behavior and seeing if we can use that to help get people more into the funnel. Yeah, it's a little bit about how we're
That's
growing the users.
that's super cool, fun and smart. Like what you just managed, you just mentioned the NGL growth type, like how they think about it. Is there any resource or something one could check out to see like how they think about these growth loops?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll typically send like information to people who ask for it, but yeah, you could probably follow like Raj Vire or Joao on Twitter. No, they can go deeper into it. I think for the most part, Nikita and Zay Turner are also huge experts on this. So you can follow like Nikita on Facebook. He'll share similar strategies. Um,
Man, sick. Hey, okay, get this. How do you think about like fundraising with your startup? Like you just mentioned that you're actually launching early and trying to launch quite cheaply and without upfront commitment. Um, yeah, like how do you think about fundraising versus
yeah,
bootstrapping here?
it's something we're still trying to figure out. Like, so first two ventures I did were purely bootstrap, and even at NGL was like bootstrap as well. Um, so yeah, it's like when do you actually transition? Like, I do think this is a business that could benefit from venture scale, but still kind of learning like who the right partners are to go with and getting kind of the right checks in place. So yeah, we're kind of where we're currently at is like we've started getting commitment offers for the fundraise. Do we take these at a potentially like maybe lower valuation, or take like an accelerator term and then we can raise it like a potentially slightly higher valuation? Um, and yeah, we're kind of in the midst of like deciding that. We'll probably end up doing a proper fundraise, not right now, but like a little bit later in the year, like December, January. Um, but yeah, we've brought on really strategic partners that can really help us. We've brought some angel capital in from them, and then we're still figuring out what institutional partners we want to.
Got it. I think one last question maybe regarding your current state with Compass is like where are you going with the team? Like are you hiring people? Are you staying lean? How many are you? Are you totally in the US? You mentioned that you're producing in Europe too. Like
Yeah, we're still like a very small team. We have about five full time now, so we've scaled up a little bit just to like keep up with the demand and like all the things we need to build out. Yeah, I mean, if there's anyone incredible back in engineering or like at like helping develop or fine tune AI models, we're on the look for something like that right now. And then even on our hardware team, especially like someone that's great at like aesthetics, industrial design, case design, or playing around with different chipsets. I think we've done a lot with the NRF architecture, but like someone that's kind of more experienced in Qualcomm and using these types of chipsets for developing the hardware. Those are kind of the two roles we're actively looking for now. And then definitely different marketing partners and experimenting and diversifying more on that front too. Um, yeah.
what would be a marketing partner?
Yeah,
What?
I would say like for meta ads, like we've worked with various different like kind of creative agencies. So like they'll create like 50 to 100 pieces of different content that we can run experiments with for the month. Anyone that yeah, it's like highly performant creative agency that's good at kind of creating these and launching for these different campaigns. yeah, Q4 is going to be huge. Like I think for the holiday season for any e-com based business. So
Got it. Cool. Hey, and you ship to Germany, you mentioned, right? Because I was actually thinking about just getting one device. So should I ship it to the US? I'm flying home in like 2 weeks, or should I ship it to Germany?
totally up to you. So we have a fulfillment center in Austin. If you ship from the US, it'll come from there. It from the Lithuanian fulfillment center, like Germany's like a day or two. Um,
Awesome. Okay, cool. Hey, and then probably last question would be like you went to the YC event because you wanted to chat with one of the partners whether he finally has a response for you to get into the program or not. Did you meet him?
yeah, I kind of we're still in pending status for the batch that already started, and then chat with him in person. He was, I think, for YC now that they switched this like quad structure, they have like 1 day break between the batches. And if you're like a partner who's creating a lot of content, like podcasts and like doing a lot of in person events, I think it's pretty hard to like run the process and then also to do that.
Zach, it's been a pleasure. Like, really, thank you very much. Amazing that you're like to have met you, to have met Compass. Maybe see you again next week. And yeah, man, hope you're soon taking over the world with a product in a privacy compliant way, so that we can also use it in Germany and Europe.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to Nonlinear. If you like the content, subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. That's at IamKrishi3, 3 as the number, and Krishi with SCHI. Reach out on any of the platforms if you have comments, questions, or just want to chat.